this Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree series covers how to do all quests and missable content in order so that all choices and rewards will be available. For best results, follow this series from the start of part 1. There will be spoilers in the form of important information, and as usual, useful timestamps can be found in the video description. At the end of part 3, we finished the majority of the remaining quests from Hornsent, Rhia, Ansbach, Leda, and Questline. In part 4, we'll be completing all remaining quests, collecting all remaining Shadow Realm blessings and legendary gear, and defeating the final boss of the DLC. Let's start with the questline for Ymir and Jolan. We can reach their location by traveling southwest from the Church District High Road to the Cathedral of Missable. After discovering the Site of Grace, we can move south through the doors and speak with a seated man named Ymir. He will give us the Hole-Laden necklace key item and runes map note when spoken to for the first time. We can speak with Ymir 2 more times to open a menu where we can ask about glintstone sorcery, as well as learn a number of spells in exchange for runes. More spells will become available as we complete tasks for him. After doing this, a new NPC by the name of Jolan will appear to the northwest, leaning against a pillar. Jolan will give us the cold shoulder treatment at first, but we should still speak with her until exhausting all of her dialogue. We can then go speak with Ymir once more and ask him about her. Also, if we rest at a Site of Grace 2 times, we can approach Ymir for some unique dialogue. However, he won't actually have any new things to say when spoken to. We can reach the Finger Ruins of Rhia pretty quickly from the Cerulean Coast Cross. Start by jumping north up to the elevated patch. We will then move northwest onto the stone coffin structure and double jump north over a gap to reach another elevated area. Moving north, we will go to another stone coffin, grabbing the St. Trina Disciples Cookbook 1 along the way. There's also a legendary Great Grave Glovewort on the second stone coffin, which we can pick up before moving east, down to a secluded section of the shoreline. Next, head further east while watching out for finger creepers buried in the sand. Near the edge of the shoreline, we will find another stone coffin, which we can move northeast over to reach the edge of the Finger Ruins. Our target is at the center of the Finger Ruins, so let's make our way down there. We can use a stealth ability like Assassin's Gambit to avoid detection by the denizens of these ruins, known as lampreys. They'll do their best to impede our progress, and one lamprey in particular will shoot purple bolts at us. If it connects, we will be dismounted and anchored to the ground for several seconds. I've found it almost impossible to dodge these, but using the enormous stone fingers and terrain as cover works well enough. At the center of the ruins is a hanging bell, which we can interact with thanks to our Hole-Laden necklace. Doing so will get us the Crimson Seed Talisman +1 and progress the quest. With that done, we can return to the Cathedral of Missable and speak with Ymir. He will reward us with a second ruins map, along with the beloved Stardust Talisman. He'll have some new spells to teach us, and we should also ask him about the nature of the world as part of the questline. Afterwards, we should speak with Jolan, and she will declare her trust and alliance with us. I would recommend watching ahead for this next part, even though there will be informational spoilers, as it is possible to lose all of your runes. If we go rest at a Site of Grace, Ymir will be gone from his chair. We can interact with the chair to reveal a secret passage down below. All that we can do down there at this moment is possibly defeat an invader NPC, but we can also do this later on. However, at this point in the quest, if we leave this hidden area, Ymir will return to the chair and he will not budge until we get near the end of the quest line. That means if we die down there, we won't be able to return to get our runes. The invasion will happen the moment we move north past the ladder. If you want to avoid a potential loss of runes, then fast travel back out of the hidden area literally the moment you reach the bottom of the ladder. That being said, if you're confident that you can defeat the invader, then go ahead and do so. Once again, we can always do this later in the questline, so don't worry about missing out on any rewards. That being said, if we do defeat the Sword Hand of Knight Anna, we will get the Claws of Night weapon. There's also a hanging bell down here, but we won't be able to interact with it yet. If we defeated Anna, we can go back to the cathedral and speak with Jolan about the invasion for some new dialogue. Regardless of if we defeated the invader, died, or just fast traveled out of the hidden area, Ymir will mention something about it if we speak to him. At this point in Jolan's questline, we can actually summon her as an ally for the boss fight at the Dark Chamber in Shadow Keep. Before getting into spoiler territory, know that if you sided with Hornsent against Leda near the start of Shadow Keep, then Hornsent will also be available to summon for the fight. Both Hornsent and Jolan's summoning signs will be inside the actual boss room, and only one can be summoned to aid with the fight. As for what effect summoning these NPCs for the fight will have, we can discuss it, but there will be spoilers and I am going to have to reveal the boss through gameplay. First, summoning Jolan will have no downstream effect, aside from the fact that it prevents us from summoning Hornsent. If we do not summon Hornsent for the fight, he will appear afterwards and be sad. Later on, we will fight Hornsent in the penultimate boss fight of the game. On the other hand, if we summon Hornsent for the fight, he will also appear afterwards and be happy. Later on, we will be invaded by Hornsent before getting to the penultimate boss fight, removing him from that battle. Regardless of our choice, we will still get all the same rewards, eventually. Our choice only affects when we will get those rewards. As for strategies to defeat the boss, Messmer, I don't have a whole lot to offer. I used the Ancient Meteoric or Greatsword and it was pretty effective. I also found Messmer to be easier with the aid of an NPC summons. Upon our victory, we will get the Remembrance of the Impaler along with the Messmer's Kindling Key item. We can discover and rest at the new Site of Grace to make Hornsent appear a couple of steps away. If we summoned him for the fight, he will be standing and happy, and if we did not summon him for the fight, he will be crestfallen and on his knees. In either case, we should speak through all of his dialogue. He will then disappear if we rest at a Site of Grace or fast travel away. Before moving on, let's quickly wrap up the Hornsent Grandam's quest. Starting from the small private altar Site of Grace, we can move out to the south to reach her. Speaking through her dialogue, she will give us the Gourmet Scorpion Stew. We should then speak with her until exhausting her dialogue. If we do that, then go rest at a Site of Grace and return to her, we will find one last Gourmet Scorpion Stew to pick up. At this point, the Grandam will be unresponsive, and as far as I know, that is the end of her questline. With that handled, let's complete the remaining steps of Ymir and Jolan's questline. We will need the O Mother gesture for this next step, which we picked up in the northern outskirts of Bonnie Village back in part 2 of this series. Moving east from the Shadow Keep Backgate Site of Grace, we can use the O Mother gesture in front of the headless statue. This should reveal a hidden path to the Shadowview hinterland. After discovering the nearby Site of Grace, we can head northeast towards the Finger Ruins of Dio. There are 2 tree sentinels along the way, which we can fight to get some Marika's Blessing consumables. There is also a summoning sign, which will call on Jolan to help. That being said, neither defeating the Tree Sentinels nor summoning Jolan is required to complete the quest. What we will need to do is move northeast and across the Hinterland Bridge before making our way southeast down the Fingerstone Hill. Once again, we will need to reach the center of the ruins, and several pesky lampreys will do their best to stop us. Like with the first ruins, Assassin's Gambit was really helpful here, but I was still spotted before reaching the Hanging Bell. Once there, we can interact with the Hanging Bell to get the Cerulean Sea Talisman +1. With that, we'll fast travel back to the cathedral and speak with Ymir to get the third and final ruins map. He will also have one more sorcery to teach, Fleeting Microcosm. Also, we must speak with Ymir and ask about the nature of the world again, otherwise the quest will not progress. After that, we can speak with Jolan again, and she will offer up some information on what Ymir is trying to do. Once all dialogue has been exhausted, we can rest at the nearby Site of Grace to start the final phase of the questline, and I recommend watching a little bit ahead before interacting with the final Hanging Bell. After resting at a Site of Grace, Ymir should move from his chair to the graveyard, which is out to the west. We can speak with him for a few lines of dialogue, but it is not necessary. What we do need to do is interact with his empty chair to reveal a tall ladder, which we can slide down to the Finger Ruins of Miyr. Unless you've already defeated her, then walking forward just a few steps will trigger an invasion by Swordhand of Night Anna, Jolan's sister. Defeating Anna will get us the Claws of Night, which are pretty great as far as fist weapons go. If you just now defeated Anna, there is an optional interaction that we can get with Jolan, but only if we do it before interacting with the Hanging Bell. We can grab the Finger Weaver's Cookbook 2 a short distance northwest, then fast travel back to the cathedral above. There, we can speak with Jolan once more and mention that we were attacked by her sister. Speaking with Jolan a few more times will lead to her thanking us in her own way. Now, we can head back down to the Finger Ruins and interact with the Hanging Bell. Pause now to avoid spoilers. For everyone else, this particular Hanging Bell will transport us to the Finger Birthing Grounds, where we will need to face off with Miyr, Mother of Fingers. I thought that the Blasphemous Blade worked pretty well against this boss, especially at our current Shadow Blessing levels. Defeating Miyr gets us the Remembrance of the Mother of Fingers as well as 420,000 runes. However, we aren't done quite yet. After discovering the nearby Site of Grace, we can fast travel back to the cathedral above. Once more, we will need to interact with Ymir's chair, and this will result in another fight where two foes need to be defeated. Pause now to avoid spoilers. Fortunately, it's not nearly as difficult as our last fight. Once both Jolan and Count Ymir, Mother of Fingers, have been defeated, we will get Ymir's High Priest armor set, Maternal Staff, and Bell Bearing. After resting at a Site of Grace, we can find a wounded Jolan sitting in her initial location. We have two options for how to finish her questline. We can use either an Iris of Grace or an Iris of Occultation on her, and each comes with its own reward. If you recall, we got 2 Iris of Grace and 2 Iris of Occultation in part 3 of this series, so you should still have at least one of each at this point. Also, it's a good idea to watch ahead before making your decision. First, if we use the Iris of Occultation on Jolan, we will get the Sword of Night. This is probably the coolest looking katana, if not weapon, in the game. It is a katana with a blade made of shadows. It has a really awesome looking unique skill called Witching Hour Slash, which can be charged to increase its power and make it look even more stylish. The second option is to use the Iris of Grace on Jolan. This will get us her Spirit Ashes, which is a fairly mid summons. However, this spirit can be transformed into a stronger Spirit Ash, Jolan and Anna. In order to get both rewards, you will need to use one iris type on Jolan for your first playthrough and the other one in New Game Plus. With that, you can make your choice. Before leaving this area, we can go out the west exit to pick up the Cherishing Finger spell, which is sitting in front of Yuri's tombstone. Now, in order to transform Jolan's Spirit Ashes, we will need to fast travel to the Hinterland Site of Grace. And even if you already chose the Sword of Night, you should also do this, as we will be getting some other unique items as a bonus. We will start by heading southeast and up into the Shaman Village. Near the village's entrance is a small peculiar tree. A legendary incantation, Minor Erdtree, can be found in front of it. Moving along, we can find a strong defensive talisman, the Golden Braid, beneath a gnarled tree on the southwest side of the village. Now it's time for the main reason that we are here. Moving east along the southern edge of this area, we should find a series of drops that we can carefully make our way down. We can drop off the final lowest ledge to land on the otherwise unreachable top floor of Rabith's Rise. You can pause now if you don't want this next part spoiled until you see it for yourself. On the top floor is a puppet of Anna, Jolan's sister. If we have the Jolan Spirit Ashes, we can usher Anna into them, transforming them into Jolan and Anna. We can also turn the ashes back if we want by interacting with the puppet again. Before we leave, there are 2 more items to grab here. If we drop down 1 floor, we can pick up the Spell Machinist's Spell Bearing, and on the floor below that, we can get Rabith's Cannon out of a chest. The Bell Bearing can be given to the Twin Maiden Husks at Round Table Hold to make an unlimited number of Rabith's Great Bolts available for purchase, which are the perfect ammunition for the cannon. The only remaining important choices regarding quests and rewards will be at the second to last boss fight of the DLC. So if that is all you are concerned with, you can skip ahead using the timestamps. For everyone else, before going to the Rauh ruins, let's cover how to get the Stone-Sheathed sword, which has 2 legendary variants. Starting from the castle front Site of Grace, we will move northwest along the road. Running past the Fog Rift Fort, we will eventually reach the Fog Rift Catacombs. This dungeon has falling spike traps that slam down when approached, so proceed to the west with caution. We have to get close to where the trap is to trigger it, then let it fall before moving forward. We can run to different safe zones during the times the trap is resetting. After getting past the first chamber, we will turn north and head down a staircase, then move west once more. We can trigger the next falling spike trap and then jump on top of it. It will bring us up, granting us access to a southwest passageway. Going down the next hall to the east and across a small bridge will bring us to a chamber with several knights and a legendary Great Ghost Glovewort. We can then double back to the chamber with the most recent falling spike trap. Once there, we can step onto the lower staircase to the east, wait for the trap to rise above us, then drop down to the area below. There is a safe zone to the east, and we can then run across to the western passageway while the trap resets. There is a lift down the stairs, which will bring us to the next part of the catacombs. In the next room, we will go down the stairs to the south into a large chamber with multiple falling spike traps. Using the same approach to deal with these traps, we will carefully make our way to the raised area at the southern side of this chamber. After clearing the enemies here, we can approach the guardrail to activate the falling trap. If we time our jump just right, we can get inside a small pocket on the side of the trap. It will bring us up to a secluded area with a chest, which contains the Blinkbolt Ash of War. We can then step on top of the falling trap and run northeast along it to another secluded area. Here we will find an altar, and if you've been following this guide series closely, we'll find the Stone-Sheathed sword here. Moving down the south ladder, we can drop back down to the ground floor of the big chamber. The boss room of this dungeon is across the chamber to the west. There is also one more falling spike trap to watch out for as we go across the next room to reach a lift. That will take us down to the boss room where we will need to defeat a Death Knight. It will drop the Death Knight's twin axes and the Crimson Amber Medallion +3 when defeated. Now that we have the Stone-Sheathed sword, we can access the altar near Ruins to transform it into one of its legendary variants. A hefty furnace pot will be necessary to access the Ruins, and you can find one of the crafting materials, Ember of Messmer, near the Morth Ruins Site of Grace. They respawn by resting at the Site of Grace, making it easy to get a steady supply. All that said, we only need one hefty furnace pot. With that in hand, we can fast travel to the Castle Watering Hole Site of Grace, then move east towards the Ruins. We'll need to platform our way up the structure to the north of the Dormant Furnace Golem. Also, I recommend either defeating this golem or finding a way to lose its attention after running into the ruins, or else it will probably kill you. For my part, I used the Assassin's Gambit Ash of War, got on Torrent, then threw the hefty furnace pot into the golem's basket. Then, as it stood up, I quickly ran into the ruins behind it. Once I was out of its detection range, I quickly quit out to the main menu, and then continued the game to lose the golem's attention. We can find the giant golden arc incantation in the chest, but more importantly, we can interact with the altar outside, raising the Stone-Sheathed sword to the dark. This will cause it to transform into the legendary Sword of Darkness. The final altar for the legendary Sword of Light is located in the Rauh Ancient Ruins, which is where we are headed next. Starting from the west rampart of Shadow Keep, we can move west through the small wooden door. We can then cross the bridge and defeat Fire Knight Salza at the other side to get Salza's hood and the Rain of Fire spell. With that, we'll move up the spiral staircase nearby to reach the Viaduct Minor Tower Site of Grace. Next, we'll be getting several Shadow Blessing items as we make our way to the Rauh Ancient Ruins Cross. To start, we can go along the path to the west until reaching the entrance of the ruins. There is a glimmering pot-bearing shade just as we enter, which will drop a Revered Spirit Ash when defeated. We can then move down the path to the northeast and open the double doors. Also, warning to arachnophobes, there are a few spider scorpions ahead. Running through the curved passageway, we will get to a chamber with another glimmering pot-bearing shade, but this one does not drop any upgrade materials. There should be another set of double doors to the southwest, which we will open and go through. The passage will turn to the northwest, and we can safely drop down to a lower area using a spirit spring. We will then turn around and move southeast to reach a second spirit spring, which will take us to another area of the ruins. A glimmering pot-bearing shade will be just ahead, and we can defeat it to get a Scadutree fragment. For another Scadutree fragment, we will move northeast through the following chamber. A path to the southeast will lead out of the ruins. We can then keep moving southeast and carefully drop down a couple times to reach an undead hippo, which will drop another Scadutree fragment when defeated. The simplest way I found to reach our next destination is to just start back from the Viaduct Minor Tower Site of Grace and follow the same path as before, up until we reach the first spirit spring in the ruins. At that point, we will have to go in a new direction. I'll be showing that path once more, just in case anyone needs it. Once we've reached the first spirit spring, we will hop down it and move northwest, turning southwest and eventually southeast when necessary. There is a Crucible Knight that we can defeat for some unique items, and just beyond it, the Rauh Ancient Ruins East Site of Grace. There are several notable items here, including a Scadutree fragment, Ancient Ruins cross message, and potentially a message from Leda. There's also one of Miquella's crosses, which we can interact with. We will then move southwest across a large bridge. Move quickly to avoid the Furnace Golem's ranged attack, which is very deadly. Once we've crossed over, we can move south past the Golem to reach the Rauh Ancient Ruins West Site of Grace. There are 3 Shadow Realm blessings to get here, as well as the legendary Sword of Light. To start, we will move southwest into the ruins and up the stairs. To the northwest is a Scadutree fragment sitting in front of an altar. If we move out to the north, we will find a revered spirit ash inside of a gazebo. Just watch out for the horned warriors. Going back into the ruins, we can head down the west-northwest passage to reach a lift, which will take us up one floor. The first thing we should do here is open a shortcut back to our last site of grace. To do that, move northeast past the Divine Bird Warrior, picking up the Divine Bird Feather spell along the way. We can climb the rocky terrain beside the ruins to reach a pile of rocks. When destroyed, it will activate the sealed spirit spring down to the east. We can jump down into it safely, then use it once more to reach a secluded area to the north. The Greater Potentate's Cookbook 9 is here, so we might as well grab it and then move northeast across an invisible bridge. This will bring us to the last of the 3 stone altars, which we can interact with to change our Sword of Darkness into the legendary Sword of Light. We can use this altar and the one in Und Ruins to switch between the Sword of Light and the Sword of Darkness. Next, we'll start moving southwest across the invisible bridge, then jump off to the south. We can move west into the ruins and past a few spider scorpions to reach a lift. The lift will take us to a secluded spot with a glimmering pot-bearing shade, which will drop a Revered Spirit Ash when defeated. We should have enough Revered Spirit Ash at this point to reach a blessing level of 9. Our next objective is a legendary incantation. To get it, we'll start back at the Rauh Ancient Ruins west site of grace, then move northwest to get back to the Spirit Spring. We'll use the Spirit Spring and face southwest to reach an elevated area of the ruins, then move south past the Divine Bird Warrior. We can drop down on the west side of the entrance to part of the ruins to reach a grid-like series of pillars and columns. While here, we can run and jump along this grid to reach the east side of the ruins. We can then move through a small opening to the north and follow this path to get the Talisman of all Crucibles. There is a lift through the northwest tunnel which will take us to the Ancient Ruins Grand Stairway. From there, we can move northeast across a large bridge while doing our best to avoid the Golem Archer. We'll need to carefully drop down from one segment of the bridge to another, then jump over a gap to the east to reach an arena. There is a tougher form of the Divine Beast Dancing Lion here, which will start using Deathblight moves about halfway into the fight. I found the Blasphemous Blades to be very effective for this boss, and for dealing with the additional Basilisk enemies it spawns. This boss can be defeated at any time, and drops the legendary incantation Divine Beast Tornado when defeated. That takes care of all the important items to gather in the Rauh Ancient Ruins. To reach the final boss of this area, we will return once more to the west site of Grace and to the Spirit Spring from there. Going back up to the southwest region of the ruins, we will move a short distance west before turning north into a scarlet rot infested portion of the ruins. If you summoned Hornsent to aid in the boss fight against Messmer, he will invade your world here. When defeated, he will drop the Falk's Blade along with his armor set. If he does not invade here, we will still get his items just later on. In any case, we can move up the stairs to the southwest, then go out to the southeast to reach the Church of the Bud main entrance. I'm not entirely sure if we need to summon Dryleaf Dane for this boss fight, but that is what I did. If you want to avoid spoilers, you can pause now. For everyone else, I recommend bringing along the Flame Cleanse Me incantation or a few preserving boluses to fight the boss, Romana, Saint of the Bud. Fire damage seems pretty effective against her, and she drops the remembrance of the Saint of the Bud when defeated. Up next is a major point of no return for most NPC Questlines. That said, as long as you've been following this guide series, you should have completed all important quest lines or quest steps up to this point. After discovering the nearby site of Grace, we can then move south to the Sealing Tree. With Messmer's Kindling, we can burn the Sealing Tree to access the final area and legacy dungeon, Enir-Ilim. We will need to discover the nearby site of Grace and sit at it before being able to fast travel again. This is totally optional, but if you want to complete the Sacred Tower painting puzzle, then return to the northern Nameless Mausoleum, east of the Templetown ruins. You can move to a specific location near the southern edge of the bluff and look towards Enir-Ilim to complete the puzzle, getting the Spiral Tree seal as a reward. With that, let's go through Enir-Ilim, get our remaining Shadow Realm blessings, and the final legendary weapon. Starting from the Enir-Ilim outer wall, we will move along the main path and up the stairs to the southeast to reach the first rise site of Grace. From there, we can go out the southwest doorway and drop down into the gap while moving across an arched bridge. Just past 3 Manflies is 2 Revered Spirit Ashes. Watching out for the enemy waiting in ambush, we will next move east, then up the stairs to the south. Near the fountain is a large Inquisitor enemy, which will drop a Revered Spirit Ash when defeated. From there, we'll go up the stairs to the southeast. We can just follow this path to reach the next site of Grace, but beware of the Beast Warrior and High Inquisitor enemies, which will both make reaching the next checkpoint a challenge. It might be best to deal with the Warrior first, then use Assassin's Gambit or a similar ability to help close the distance with the Inquisitors before they detect you. Once we've made it, we can pick up another Scadutree fragment and interact with the final Miquella's Cross of the DLC. Now for the last legendary weapon. Starting from the Spiral Rise Site of Grace, we'll move out to the east and down the stairs. Again, Assassin's Gambit is very helpful here. At the bottom of the first staircase, we can move northeast to a curved staircase. We can quickly grab the Inquisitor Spirit Ashes in an isolated chamber, then double back down the hall. On the south side, we can jump down to a staircase, then move up south. From here, we can jump off to the southeast to reach a narrow platforming section along the walls of Enir-Ilim. We will need to go down and to the south, eventually jumping down to the side of a tower. We can move around it and drop to a safe area below. Moving down the stairs to a crumbling platform, we can then sprint jump south to a small window, which we can then go through to reach a secluded area of the Bellerot Tower settlement. A spider scorpion will drop down just ahead as we move east out to an open area. We can pick up a Scadutree fragment in front of the nearby altar, then move down the stairs to the southeast to reach a large lift. We will move southeast at the bottom, going along the only path forward. A beast warrior guards the way ahead, and I found it best to just run past it. At the bottom of the spiral staircase, we will find one final lift. At the bottom of that, in the chamber to the west, is Euphoria, a legendary twin blade. That leaves one final stretch of this legacy dungeon. Starting at the Spiral Rise Site of Grace, we will go up the stairs and out the window to the southeast. We can then move southwest along the rooftops, dealing with a particularly nasty variant of Gravebird. As we move west towards a staircase, there will be a small chamber on our left. We can find the final Revered Spirit Ash inside. After grabbing it, we'll go north up the straight stairs, then out and around the spiral staircase. We will find a Scadutree fragment in the chamber at the top. We can then move east up the rooftops and past a beast warrior, entering back into the spiral rise through a window. Up the stairs and out to the south, we will then cross a final promenade, passing another beast warrior to reach the cleansing chamber anteroom. The final Scadutree fragment is in front of the nearby altar, and with that, we can max out our blessings. Our Scadutree blessing should be at level 20, and our Revered Spirit Ash blessing should be at level 10. If you want to avoid spoilers up ahead, just know that you need to use the gold summoning signs for Ansbach and Thiollier if you want to get their final quest rewards. Also, if you sided with Leda against Ansbach in Shadow Keep, then Ansbach's summoning sign will not be there. In any case, you can pause now to avoid spoilers. For everyone else, let's talk specifics about the final confrontation with Leda and her allies. The amount of enemy NPCs in this fight is variable, depending on the choices that you made throughout the course of the DLC. If you defeated or caused the deaths of friendly NPCs, with the most likely candidates being Miyr and Hornsent, then you will not have to fight them here. My advice for this fight is to use something that is quick and aggressive, like the Ancient Meteoric or Greatsword, and quickly dispatch the enemy NPCs as they spawn in, not giving them time to heal. If you take too long to defeat the enemy NPCs and allow them to accumulate, it is easy to get overwhelmed. That being said, once all enemy NPCs are defeated, we will get Leda's sword before returning to our world. Once there, we can go around and pick up the item sets for all enemy NPCs that were defeated. This may include item sets from Rhia, Miyr, and Hornsent, along with Dryleaf Dane's footwork. In the next room, we will get Leda's armor. Leda's other armor pieces are actually from the Oathseeker Knight set, which we got in Gravesite Plains during part 1 of this series. Up the stairs to the north is a lift, and if we summoned Ansbach for the fight, we should find him waiting for us at the top of it. We can ask about Thiollier and ask about Mohg's death, then move up the stairs to the Divine Gate front staircase site of grace. It is now time for the final boss. If you've been following this series, then you should definitely have a summoning sign for Thiollier. If you did not betray Ansbach, then there will also be a summoning sign for him. From my own testing, you do not need to summon them for the final boss, and they actually make it more difficult. As for strategies to defeat the final boss, I've seen people say the Ansbach Rapier with a cold affinity is very effective. I've also seen it said that the Impenetrable Thorn spell with the Maternal Staff is good. Personally though, I've found the most success with the following build. You can see my level and attribute point allocation on the right side. I'm using the Blasphemous Blade and Godslayer Seal, both in my right hand. In the left hand I have the Fingerprint Shield with the No Skill Ash of War, which is very important as it allows me to use the Blasphemous Blade skill while I have the shield out. I am wearing as much heavy armor as possible without going into the heavy equipload territory. The Greatjar Arsenal Talisman helps with that, and my other talismans boost stamina regen, physical defense, and spellcasting speed. I'm using the Radagon icon instead of Beloved Stardust Talisman because I do not want to compromise my defense. For spells, I'm using Erdtree Heal, as it goes a lot farther in keeping my health topped off than Crimson Flasks can. Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength are great for boosting defense and damage, and the Black Flame spell is just for my Mimic tier. Since I'm using Erdtree Heal, most of my flasks are allocated as Cerulean, but I still keep around 4 or 5 Crimson Flasks for quick healing in emergencies. For the Physic Flask, I use the Green Burst and Crimson Burst crystal tiers to boost stamina regen speed and also provide some passive healing. Like I said before, the boss is actually easier without summoning NPCs, as summoning them increases the boss's max health by a substantial amount. However, if you are using a bleed build, then the damage from hemorrhage or blood loss should scale with the boss's health, and so the distraction provided by extra bodies might be worth it. If you want to pause to avoid spoilers, you can do so now. For everyone else, I will do my best to provide useful advice on how to defeat the final boss, promised Consort Radahn. First, pay attention here to how much of the health bar is taken off from a 2500 damage move when no NPCs are summoned. It is about a 20th or so of the full bar. Compare this to when 2 NPCs are summoned, where now it is about half of what it was in the previous example. Now, for my own build and strategy, I start this fight with my seal out. I apply my buffs, enter the arena, and wait to see if Radahn opens with his Gravity Strike attack. If he does, I dodge to avoid the damage, then immediately summon my Mimic tier. I want the Mimic tier to have a seal out, so it focuses on using Black Flame at range to deal damage. It will also be able to heal itself occasionally with Erdtree Heal. I can also switch to my seal to reapply buffs and to use Erdtree Heal on myself, and also on my Mimic tier if needed. That's because having some sort of distraction in the form of a Spirit Summon is extremely helpful. Besides that though, I mostly focus on hitting Radahn with the Blasphemous Blade skill at range. When I have aggro, I try to balance between keeping my shield up and keeping my stamina up, blocking the worst of Radahn's combos. The fight gets a lot more dangerous when the boss's health bar gets down to around 60% or so. This initiates the second phase of the fight against Radahn, Consort of Miquella. I will try to show the most lethal moves or combos during the second phase of this fight and how I was able to deal with them. Also, as a quick side note, if Radahn grabs you twice in his second phase, you will be charmed and instantly die. This will unlock the "let us go together" gesture, but you can also just pick up this gesture after the fight if you avoid dying in this manner. You can remove the charmed debuff after being grabbed the first time with Miquella's Great Rune, which we obtained by defeating the Scadutree avatar boss in part 3 of this series. If anyone has found other strategies that are particularly effective against Radahn, I, and I'm sure many others, would greatly appreciate it if you shared it in the comments. However it is managed, once the final boss is defeated, we will get the remembrance of a god and a lord. We can go ahead and pick up the "let us go together" gesture if we didn't get it through the other method, then touch the gold glowing memory left behind. A cutscene will play out, and we will get the legendary Circlet of Light. After discovering and resting at the nearby Site of Grace, the body of Thiollier, and depending on what choices you made, the body of Ansbach, will appear nearby. From Thiollier, we will get Thiolier's Hidden Needle and armor set. From Ansbach, we will get the Obsidian Lamina Reaper and Furious Blade of Ansbach spell, along with his armor set. Finally, we can return to St. Trina near the Garden of Deep Purple and pick up the legendary St. Trina's Blossom head armor, which slightly boosts maximum FP. It also has a faint glow to it, so that's pretty neat. There are also 3 Remembrance duplication stations in the Land of Shadow in case you wanted to duplicate any of the DLC boss Remembrances. The first is located in the southeast corner of the Finger Ruins of Rhia. The second is located in the pond on the southwest side of the Cathedral of Manus Meter. And the third is located in the northeast outskirts of the Finger Ruins of Dio. If you're still having trouble with the steps covered in this video, you can reach out in the comments section where I will do my best to help. I also recommend checking the pinned comment as I'll be updating with information about specific problems people are having and potential solutions. That is it for Missable quests and other content for the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. That being said, this series did not cover all items and dungeons, and I recommend exploring the Land of Shadow thoroughly before going for a New Game Plus run. I am considering a condensed version of this guide series for New Game Plus, which will focus solely on missable quest steps and content, and the order in which they need to be completed. You can find that video over on my channel, and if you're new, consider subscribing. You're helping me feed my cat, her name's Marshmallow. Have a great day if you're here today, have a great Sunday, and a great week, and as always, thanks for watching.